Welcome to Amplifying Our Voices. I'm your host, Patty Hayak. Thank you so much for being here today. My next guest, Waldo and Jacqui, are mentors, entrepreneurs, and leaders in the Knoxville community. In this episode, they will talk about starting over, taking risk, surviving storms, and how mindset can change everything. It's a story about possibility, resilience, and creating a life you love. I'm so excited for you to hear it. Let's dive in. Hi, Waldo and Jacqui. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited for people to hear about your story. I like to start off with, where does your story begin?
I'm Waldo Solano.
And I'm Jacqui.
I'm from Acapulco, Mexico. I was a lawyer over there. Well, I still am a lawyer. In some point of my life, my father and my brother decided to come to the United States. My father came first. So I was afraid for my brother to come by himself. I have a good job at the time over there in Mexico. I used to work for the federal government in Mexico City. I decided to come with my brother just to make sure that he came fine to United States. But then I started experience the living in United States, and I like it. I remember I traveled all United States. I started in Long Beach, California. Then we went to Chicago, Illinois. It was too cold. It was my first time I experienced snow. I remember I get there in November 1st. We had 24 hours snow that day. I was super happy. It only last one day. After that, I was so cold. I said, I never gonna live in snow. We survived one winter. So I said, you know what? This is too cold. So we went south to Greenville, North Carolina. It was too small. I grew up in Mexico City, so I'm used to big cities. So then I went down to Atlanta, Georgia. So that was big enough. It was fun. I worked for a long time. It was a different experience for me because I always been an office worker, for say one way. As a lawyer, you always have to think. It's all your mind. So I started working like physically in factories. So I find it very, I don't know, it was different there. I don't have to use much of my brain to work. Made more money as a factory worker than as a lawyer. It was shocking for me at the time. But then I was tired. One day I find a news paper saying about salsa classes with a salsa party. So I say, I've been dancing my whole life. I started dancing since I was 6. I perform folklore, Mexican folklore since 6 to almost 12, performing in front of thousands of people. That kind of called me back. I experienced once, I still remember that night, the first night that I went to a party. It's completely different the way it's done in the United States, the way I grew up. So I took the lesson, then I stayed for the party. Then I remember saying after leaving, I said, you know what, I'm going to do the rest of my life. That was over 20 years ago. And I'm still going to party every Friday, every Saturday. I haven't stopped yet. So that's how I fall in love of what I do for a living now, salsa dance instructor. So I started teaching as a hobby. I have my own job at the time. But then I started doing so much dancing that it was really hard to have a real job in dance at the same time. So in the beginning of 2008, I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to do this full time. I still remember why I did that. It was, now that I think about it, it was a little bit stupid to do that at the time. So I stopped doing that. But I don't know, you guys remember in 2008, in the end of the year, the economy crash hit the United States.
Mhm.
That guy is already been in business for a decade. I was a new instructor in his company. He lost every single student in 2008. So
Oh, no.
many people went bye-bye. Everybody lose money. So I have a job, but no money. So I was broke. He lost too many people. We all lose money. So I had to sell my car to keep living. And thankfully, he have an extra room in his house. So the instructor said, hey, stay with me. Let's wait it out until the bad things happen. Then we business come back. But I'm not very patient in hard times. So I remember being performing like 1 or 2 years ago in Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah, I remember asking the person that organized the event. That person didn't have like regular events. She just did it because she wanted to do something special. He hired me to perform there. So I remember asking her, hey, so you guys have salsa parties here? He said, no, it's nothing in Knoxville. So then I check and Google, okay, the population. Then I see it was like near 200,000 people. I guess it's big enough. I'm used to the big cities, like Atlanta has millions of people. We say, okay, it's no competition. Probably nobody experienced this. So I was like,
He's like,
So-
life business opportunity.
yeah.
Right?
So I want to try. At that point, I never run my own business ever. I just work for someone. So I say, okay. So then I call the person that hired me. Hey, do you mind to go to the restaurant that you do the event? You tell the owner that Waldo Solano from Atlanta, Georgia wants to go once every Friday to do a salsa class, a salsa party there. Okay, they say, when are you want to start? Okay, I'm going to start. That was in the beginning of December. I say, I'm going to start on December 18th. This is December 18th. I used to create events there. People used to join in, about the party, used to kind of say, so I learned, I was in every single position in the company. I was the instructors. Sometimes I was the performer. Sometimes I was the DJ. Sometimes I was in the door charging people. I was even sometimes in the parking lot leading people where to park. So I learned every single aspect of the business by doing a little bit of everything. So I know what had to be done. I just never did it for myself. I see how he designed a flyer. I still had the flyer, I didn't bring it up. I still had the first flyer of my own business. Something like, hey, Waldo Solano from Knoxville, Tennessee, for the first time in Knoxville, something like that. So I grabbed the file and I made 100 pictures of the flyer. That was my first flyer. So I remember it cost like 3 cents per picture. I didn't have money, so I went to downtown. I take a bus to go to West Knoxville to get to nearby the restaurant. And the way I was passing flyers, my pictures, and that's how I started. I started the first party in December 18, 2008 in Knoxville for the first time. I have like a little over 50 people in the first event.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. And now every Friday we have
You're right.
between 200, 250 people every Friday. So, and we're still going.
That
It's
is
everything.
a lovely story. I like how you talked about how you were a lawyer and then coming into the States. What would you say for you was the most challenging parts of that coming into a new country?
The language. You need money. You have bills to pay. And I needed to find a job in the beginning. I remember I went to, I think, Walmart and buy a little translator machine where you can type words. So I needed to go find a job. So I used to go to places with my machine just to type so that people can hear what I was trying to ask. And I start getting jobs with people that don't speak any Spanish.
Wow.
And my little machine helped me out a lot. I remember my first word I learned was possible. So I used to use it for everything. So I used to go to place, okay, is possible work? Is possible this? So I used to use it for everything.
One thing Waldo is never going to tell you is that he is always been a pioneer. I remember when he first came to Knoxville, I was in graduate school at UTK and I saw his flyer. And that's where we met because he would go hang out at the library, right? Printing his flyers.
I didn't have a computer.
Right. But I remember because I saw a flyer inside the library and you have to remember this 20 years ago, nobody barely knew in our community in Tennessee what salsa was. So I remember people would joke, salsa and chips, like all the time. Like, are you having a salsa and chips party? Like now, there's bachata and there's all these other things that people now know what it is. But I remember when we were trying to sell salsa for the first time, people didn't hardly even know what they were doing. They didn't know what it was, the concept. And so I remember always hearing that joke. But yeah, that's how I first saw his flyer. And I thought it was like a picture of people dancing. And I had never done salsa. And here I am in my mid-20s. And so I went to one of his first classes. And then, the rest is history. We eventually partnered up and did all the things. What he's saying is true. Like I was at UT working on my master's. I'm a teacher. So I taught middle and high school English, right? And so I did that for 15 years. And it's really hard. It is difficult to run a business, as many people know that run businesses, and have a full-time job. So what he's saying is so accurate. And then you find, gosh, I can do what I love, make triple, quadruple the amount of money and do something I love instead of the 9-to-5, which was kind of burning us both out, right? So I noticed that too after a couple of years of trying to do both. And then toward the end, actually just a couple of years ago, finally gave up teaching middle school, which is where I ended, to do this full time. So for a long time, a lot of people don't understand what pioneering means, but anytime you start something brand new, is really hard. It's very hard, especially when people don't know what your product is, right? You're trying to sell it. And basically the way we did it, and at the time, I had connections to colleges and we were much younger, 20 years ago. And so you just got our friends to come. We posted flyers. We walked around. We went to, remember, like Latino restaurants, and we did these. You know how you go to Latino restaurants and they have the bands. What kind of bands are they?
Posters.
The big posters, and we would post our little Walmart flyer right next door. And, we pioneered all kinds of things. We tried festivals. We did a mini Congress like 2 years into this. So that's one thing I've always loved about Waldo is that he is an idea guy and I'm a details person. So it just works so well because he'll be like, I have this idea. And you're like, oh my God, is the ideas coming? And I'm like calculating the costs over here and I'm all the details. But his ideas are so nuanced. Like in our community, it's been one of those things that has changed this entire community. And so now looking back on it almost 20 years later, like if you hadn't pioneered, I don't know that even salsa would be what it is today in this community, this very rural, it's still small town here, homogenous, as you know, demographic wise in our area. So, and now salsa is synonymous with Waldo here. When people think in Knoxville and East Tennessee, salsa or bachata, cumbia, they think Waldo Solano, Waldo and Jacqui. And that should make you feel so proud, like how far we've come. Because it was hard. It was hard for a decade.
I love that he mentioned that possible was the first word that he learned in English, because like when you're talking about being a pioneer, like he was already affirming that, right? Like the possibilities for Waldo here are endless. So I love that. And I also love how you mentioned being the first, being a pioneer in both of your families to basically be an entrepreneur, running a business. You had no blueprint, right? You had no one to tell you how to do this. You had to figure it out on your own. What were some of the biggest struggles that you had in learning how to run a business?
And to some extent, my mother is a very entrepreneur. She's that type of woman, is a businesswoman that is either making like sold something or made flowers.
Always.
She's always selling something. I remember she used to make tamales in Mexico City, and she used to give me a bucket, me and my sister, and we used to go door by door knocking, selling tamales. It was one of my favorite things because I used to eat one and then wait from house to house. So I used to love it. So I used to eat probably like half of the tamales they used to give me.
Did she know? I'm sure she knew.
I told her, yes. We coming from a family that always had businesses. But not
in the sense you're thinking. Yeah.
How we do it here in the United States.
Very different.
So I didn't know anything about marketing. I just did what I see people around doing it and sometimes experimenting. But it wasn't until, I would say, 2019 when we was pregnant. And then my wife showed me the numbers that we wasn't doing so well at the time.
So we're working 24 hours a day at this point, right?
Yes. Yeah, I used to do a lot. I used to do quinceañeras.
Oh, God.
Weddings.
DJs.
Privates, DJs.
Anything to make money, because we all know teachers don't make money. And just picking up stuff, doing what we could.
In the perfect world, when you're an entrepreneur, you think the more products or services you sell, you should make more money. But because I didn't know much about business, I didn't realize that actually that's not true. In the real world, all the biggest businesses start with one business in one product.
Right.
It's like Jay Bezos from Amazon. He didn't start with all the store that he has now. No, he was selling books. But when he created a system to sell that book, it was so good that he realized, oh, wow, I can sell anything with what I just create. Then he expanded. But all the businesses, Apple, same thing, it just was computer.
Right.
So they all start with one product. And once you master how to sell that service or that product, then you can expand to others. The problem with entrepreneurs, what I see is like we all start with that mindset, trying to be Walmart, trying to be Amazon, you tend to sell as many things as possible to make money. But I realized that no, actually you have to focus on one thing, master how to do it right, and then you can expand.
We were working so many jobs. You're working 24/7 and you hit a point where you're like, something has to change.
Right.
Like we either have to burn our bridges and really take this seriously, so that we both see, or we have to do something else. And thankfully for Waldo, during that very, very difficult year for me and for him, he happened to be starting to research online, and you found business really through
So,
that.
so I used to watch videos for 30 seconds commercials, and they pay you like 5 cents per video. You go, okay, I'm gonna watch videos all day. They make a lot of money.
That's not
But
how
they
it
give you a limit, because
Right.
once you see 5, you say, okay, you run out of videos. Wait till tomorrow. Oh, this is not gonna work. I made like $5. I used to fill out forms. I used to do everything. But then I find one class called Expert Secrets by a
Mhm.
guy called Rosen Brunson. So the first thing I learned is my website was the problem. Additional websites only give information. Real websites make money,
Right.
actually sell
Sell something.
something
Yep.
24/7. So then I came to Jacqui. Hey, Jacqui, I think I found the problem. So he's selling a program. I think it's called Traffic something.
Secrets, traffic secrets.
Traffic Secrets is but it costs almost two grand.
I was like,
I know you told me you speak rock, right? But I think this is gonna solve the problem. So I explained her. He said, okay, he gave me the credit card. Do it. Okay, well,
at that point, when you hit rock bottom, and at that point you were like, things really can't get any worse. Idea guy over here has never let me down, ever. He always figures it out. He's a figure it out kind of guy. And let's freak out first and then look at numbers, and then we'll freak out some more. But then eventually we figure it out. So that's one thing between Waldo and I, like, we always manage to figure it out. So I trusted in him. I gave him the credit card, and I was like, okay, if this is the answer, it better be the answer.
so I grabbed our website. So I transformed our website, designed the whole thing, and my God, start like making money for the
Right.
first time. Right? Wow, this thing actually works. So I learned that actually business is easy. Any business in the world had the same two problems. One is how to find customers. Two is how to retain those customers.
Mhm.
So the problem is that when you enter in entrepreneurship, you think what logo has to look like, how my website has to look like.
Right. Like a lot of preparation of things that don't matter.
But then you check our website, our logo is just the default font. Like it's not even a design.
Nothing special.
Right? So logos doesn't matter. Like you go to Apple, the logo Apple is super tiny. They don't care. It's the cell phone what they sell. That's super big.
Right.
Then I learned, okay, in 2020, we get hit by COVID. So Jacqui was, oh my God, what we're gonna do? Then Jacqui starts making plans. Okay, I'm gonna keep my job. We're gonna move with our parents, so we don't have to pay rent.
We were gonna move in. Yeah, we were gonna move in my
She
parents.
was planning like how we can save money to survive this hard time. I realized that money do not disappear. System or a product or a service that is good for people.
That people want.
People will spend money.
Right.
So I was thinking, what can I do? Then I showed Jacqui a movie, Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, God.
What's the name of Tom Hanks movie? Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know you remember Forrest Gump. I don't know if you watched that movie. But it's one thing when he gets into the shrink business. He doesn't know anything about business. So he buys that boat to honor his friend that died in war, Bubba.
Yeah,
I think.
Bubba Shrimp. Yeah.
And what he did, he failed so many times trying to get shrink. He get trash back, and all the shrink they had experience laughing about him. But then the storm came.
Mm-hmm.
He has the lieutenant, his boss in the army helping him.
The lieutenant.
And he's crazy in the storm. They start fighting the storm while they are facing the storm. Everybody else go to home to like go safety.
Yeah, because they're not crazy.
Right. Then the storm destroyed all the ships, all the boats, so everybody else, because they was fighting the storm that the only ones that survived.
Right.
So for months, it was the only boat taking shrink to the market. So they grow so much that they create an empire. So if we learn how to survive the storm,
right?
We face the storm. While everybody is scrambled and crying and hiding, we will survive. And we did. Instead, in 2020, instead to disappear like other companies, we grew. We didn't lose a single company member or students. We grow.
Right.
But that's because we learned that when problems come, you just got to face it.
Right.
And if you know how to try in hard times and easy times, like easy, right? I think that's one of the main lessons in marketing that we learn. Instead of hiding, find ways to keep going with it.
Business has taught us a lot about life. It wasn't until we started getting into this, and you have to remember, none of us went to business school,
Right.
but really like teaching us about life, because I truly believe now that I would say it's that high, 99% of people that fail, it's not that they don't have the skill or can't do it. It's a mindset issue. It's a
Yeah.
mindset issue. So and there's a lot of hard times. The business is like this, constant, right? But I think what saved us during that time was not only, learning a little bit about business, but also a mindset of, this is really crappy. What skills do we have? What knowledge do we need? Self-improvement is one of those things that, like, when you invest, when you invest in yourself, that's always a win. And we took that $2,000, we learned a little bit about business. It saved us during 2020 because we started doing memberships, which is a whole different thing that we teach about marketing to dancers, how to do membership quality. We did all of our group lessons online. We had dance parties online. We didn't know anything about Zoom, but that's one thing that I think has kept Waldo and I going, is just anytime a hard time comes, we just look and we're like, okay, we're back to Bubba Shrimp. What can we do differently that is going to allow us to beat all our competitors or to attract more customers? Because there's always a way. And that's something that I never learned as a child. Because when I was a child, I learned things had to go perfect. You got to get straight A's. If things fail, then you're not a good human. Like, failure's not good. That was just my millennial generation. We were trained to be perfectionists. And so you go to college, you get a job, you do that forever, and you hate it. And then that's what you do. You don't take risks, right? Risks are bad. And that's just not true. And so honestly, doing business in the end gave me the courage after a long time to quit a job that I was burnt out in. I didn't really enjoy. And I would have never had the confidence to do that without going through the storms with Waldo, with the dance company. And that has changed our lives. So if I could offer anything to anybody listening, that for us is a transition of thought. Now ideas have shifted. You do not have to go to business school to have a business. I came out of college to be a teacher with $50,000 of debt because I went and got my master's. I came out with over 50 grand in debt. And because that's what I was supposed to do. Things are changing now. And, you can go and get a certification online. I'm talking about business things. Obviously, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a dentist, you need to get a certain certification. But in the business field, things are rapidly changing. And even Waldo and I, we teach a lot of master classes on business. We go and we're traveling around to different dance congresses now, which is our passion, to teach business to dancers because nobody's doing it. If I had somebody training me when we first started, would not have had the issues that we had going through our 2 decades. Would have been drastically shortened. To have a mentor that said, okay, here's business. How can we infuse this into your dance to help you do your passion and also not have to work 15 jobs? Like, it is something you can do. And so anyways, that's our new passion, going into business coach realm, is to kind of connect those two things that we see even today. There's still dancers running dance companies. If anything major happens, a shift in the economy, things happen, the business is done.
Right.
Because, if there's another COVID, whatever it is, and we want to help people to see that it doesn't have to be that way. And so that's kind of the goal.
When you're talking about having to unlearn all of these societal norms that we're taught, you go to school, you graduate, and then you do that profession. No, you don't have to do that. You can make your own rules. You are the designer of your life. And I also love what you are building in the community. I see that you're not just a dance studio, right? You're not just instructors. You're also mentors, right? You talked about the importance about having a mentor. You're entrepreneurs, you're business leaders. And like I said, I like what you're building in the community. Can you expand a little bit of what does community look like in your studio and at the events that you do?
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
This is something people don't understand. It's very common. When you get in entrepreneurship, if you decide a specific type of business, let's say, for example, us, all we do is teach how to dance. So it's very common for person that don't have any training about business to think that we are in the dance business, but we are not. This is something we teach other dancers. It's like we are in the relationship business because everything is a relationship. But dancers have to be careful between create a transactional business and a real relationship business because we are people. Humans, we all like to be a pack, always get together. We always gonna be congregations of people focusing one specific thing. In this case, people that love ska to dance get together to dance. But we treat our business like a garden, not a machine. We focus to wash the garden, grow the flowers to grow, but you have to be careful because
You got to pick the weed.
because weeds grow, they can kill
Yes.
the garden if you let them
Yes.
grow.
Oh,
So
yes.
our job is to grow the garden and protect the garden
Yeah.
all the time. One of the things that I love the most is like the other day we went to get a coffee. So it was a big line. And so I told you, okay, hey, maybe if you walk in, it's faster than the line. So then she walked in. So it's a big line inside as well of people. But then the person who was making the coffees turned out to Jacqui and said, hey, Jacqui. Right? Then she turns to the big line. He said, I'm sorry, guys. All right. But 2020 was really hard for me. Her salsa classes helped me to go through a hard life. So I'm going to take her order first.
Which I'm like, it's okay. Like, take their other. But she made a point to tell everybody, like, this changed my life. This got me through a devastating time. So that's one of the things. That's just one example. Happens all the time. This is what keeps us going. We love to dance, but as we transition into being coaches and mentors and things like that, we realize that it's so much more. People do not come to us to learn to dance. Most of the people that come to us in our community, right, they come because they think they want to learn dance. But as you hear their stories, and as you know, stories are so important. That's what connects us is our story, which is why we started with our story. But one of the things we do right up front is we start learning stories. And then once we build our community, the next level is that we have our community businesses, especially our minority and immigrant community businesses, which I am extremely passionate about. Then we start connecting our customers and our diverse group of people with businesses. And that's a beautiful thing because now you've got business owners like, gosh, your community has saved us. That's one of the reasons that we have intentionally we hold some weekly events at minority and immigrant businesses or small businesses is really a passion for us. So we're trying to connect and build on a larger scale at this point. It's not just about our personal students anymore. We want to encourage, like, if this is a community that we're building and expanding to help the businesses that really need it. And that has been such a blessing to see because now we're seeing that, like, we can do things. And the really cool part is that the thing about community is that once you have a community, they've got your back. There's people in our community, they don't have family. Maybe they just come from a divorce. Maybe there's a death in the family. We're dealing with grief. Maybe there's always a reason that people they may not even consciously be aware that they're seeking community. But even when I first started, I was seeking a community. When I first came to that first salsa class, I thought I wanted to learn to dance. But in reality, I needed a community really badly. And so once you have a strong community like we do, we could go anywhere in Knoxville with somebody being like, oh my God, Waldo, you helped me do da-da-da, or I took your class 5 years ago and blah, blah, blah. And I've moved here and I'm doing this thing. So that's the power of community. We're in the community business. We're in the relationship business. And that has been such a starting point for an expansion. And a side note, there's all these other communities that branch off from that. We have a strong ladies community that has grown on its own just through ladies coffee talk chats and connecting ladies with businesses and being able to develop that strong community because we women also need community, just like guys, right? And so a few years ago, I started women's community doing specific thing for our women. And also they're not always aware, but I'm also constantly teaching them about how to be safe in the dance community, how to have etiquette, how to say no, What are tips and tricks and strategy to be kind, but also to be assertive? Because it's 2026. We are allowed to be assertive, just like guys. Okay. And not be called aggressive. We are allowed to have thoughts and opinions. We're allowed to say no, thank you, and walk away. And that's one thing growing up I never learned, because I was always taught you need to be kind. You need to go with the flow. It's not that bad. Well, I think what that did for me, actually, on a good note, is it had the opposite effect. It made me angry and very defensive all the time with anybody. Because I was always like, just calm down, Jacqui. Like, you don't need to be so aggressive, and some of those other words that we hear that I can't say on this podcast. And that really, really angered me. And I was really angry for a long time. But I think deep inside me, really what was budding is I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be in a leadership so I could help other people also learn to be assertive, learn to stand up for their bodies, learn to stand up for their communities, and take risks in business. And a lot of times, especially women, we see a lot of people when we go to conferences, it's very important that we do this together. And sometimes I'll lean over and say, okay, I'm going to talk just to the women. There's a lot of women that are terrified to start their own business. They are terrified to do any other than what has been done. And we want to challenge women to also be pioneers. That's something I never learned, and I never had access to, and I never thought was possible. Thankfully, Waldo has taught me a lot. Everybody deserves a great mentor for sure. But that's my personal passion, is taking what we've developed and coaching women, because I want them to see that it is possible. And I just remember we just went to Atlanta at our last Congress, and so many women came up to us, and it was funny. We're doing a business conference in Atlanta, and we see the people start to trickle in, boom, 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 sitting down. And I turned to Waldo. There's already like 20 women. There's no guys in the room yet. No guys at all. Women. They keep coming, right? They keep coming. And I'm like, okay. So that had never happened before, but it kind of rekindled something in me. It was almost like a sign from God. Like, hey, you need to be focusing also on the importance of women within your company, because often we are the staple of the etiquette and the behavior. And what we allow as women is what is normalized. If we don't allow it, then it's not normalized. And so I love to coach my ladies on that, because sometimes they forget the difference between just being kind and taking care of our bodies, taking care of ourselves, our mind and our body. And that's what I'm passionate about. So that
Good.
Going back to community, it's all part of it. And that's why we love the diversity of what we do.
Both of you mentioned so much there. I love it because, one, Jacqui, you're talking about empowering women, which I love. I'm all about women empowerment and using our voice. So yes, it is 2026 and we need to be using our voice. So thank you for that. And then going back to the community, I believe that you had already built a great community before COVID. And that is another reason I think why people stuck with you, because you said you are in the business too of building relationships. And you got people through some really hard times during 2020 because of that community that you built. So I love that. And then you also mentioned about the diversity and how you give back to the community. For me, I love dance because it's one of the places where I have met people from all walks of life, such a diverse group, people with an open mind. And then like you even sending them to some of the local businesses, you're really immersing them in the culture, which I think is another big piece of, yes, dancing the music, but then also fully embracing the culture. So I love that you do that. So thank you for that.
And I'll just add one more thing about that, because I want to make it very clear that, especially in the times that we live right now.
Yes.
One of the thoughts that ran through my mind recently, the past couple of years, is, once again, because I'm the one that's always kind of like, oh gosh, what if, right? Waldo never says what if. What if doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh gosh, what if our business slows down because of the political hostility? Or what if this, what if that, what if this? But here's what I will say, is that community is strong. If you have a community that understands the power of community, which we train our community to do, our business has never been more thriving. I think for a while I was a little nervous. Some things people don't always talk about is the bad side, the threat, the more serious things that can happen as you become a little bit more popular, especially in a certain field, which for us is salsa dancing. And so I want to bring that up because, especially in the Latino community, we have people that might be scared to come out. We have a lot of things going on. But what I will say is this: we have learned that we are providing spaces of not only safety, but like a little bit of joy. Things are so crazy right now on whatever side you are. It doesn't matter. Things are so crazy that when I go to the party or I go to the class, I feel like it's a little bit, either an hour, a little hour, a 30 minutes, people can escape. And it doesn't matter your ethnicity, your demographic, whatever it is. And I mean, people come to us all the time thanking us for like a little bit of joy in their day because of how crazy it is. And we don't tell you guys about all the different things. Like, we don't complain about getting threatening phone calls.
People have no idea how much hate we get.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Just don't promote it.
Yeah.
But something I learned about business. One of my mentors business say, if you don't make somebody mad before noon, you are not promoting enough.
And that just basically means like you're going to get hate. You're going to,
It's part of the formula. So I learned something that in life has always laws. Our universe has laws. They're always going to be here and cannot disappear. Like, so for example, in this book, you have the left side, you have the right side. One cannot exist without the other. You have the up and you have the down.
Yang.
You never can have one another. Same way we hate and love.
Right.
You cannot expect just love without the existence of hate. So when we get something, the bad side of the business, we know that it has to be present for us to try.
Correct.
So this is why hate doesn't scare us. For me, it's like fuel. It's a signal for me that I'm going in the right path. Because the moment that we don't get hate, that means that I'm failing in something. So I'm thankful for those people that keep messaging us about they don't like whatever we do. Yeah. Because I say, okay.
Right? They're driving engagement up.
I know there are a lot of people that get stuck and stopped when there's things like that happen, but I just want to encourage people that if it's not happening, you're probably not successful enough. There is something triggering about when somebody's successful or doing something or making change or pioneering. It just rubs people, it triggers people. So I want to say to anybody that's listening, like, keep going. If you know you've got something that people want, a service that people need, you've got to keep going for the good of the world. Because if you stop, then there's somebody that's not going to realize their dream or get their joy that's needed. That's what we're giving. That's what we're giving back. I wish someone had said that to me. Hey, failure is good. People that are hating are good. And maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone.
Yeah, I think these days people take like the stress is something bad.
Yes.
But that's just information. If you feel stress, means that you're alive. Be married is stressful. Be single is stressful. Be successful is stressful. Be broke is stressful.
Yeah.
Everything creates stress. You just have to choose what stress you want to have. Because you can pick be broke or be try. And both sides you're going to have stress. It's life. The only thing, the bad thing is you just get stuck in the stress.
Getting stuck. Right.
That's the only bad thing. And in business, unfortunately in business, when you win, you don't get like
there's no prize.
A medal or a prize or hey, good job. No, it's like the way you win in business is be open for business. That's how you win. The moment that you close, that's when you lose. So as long as you keep the doors open and you're looking for to grow, even you grow a little bit, but you keep growing every single day, you winning.
And keep investing in yourself. Right. And I never understood the importance of self-development. People don't understand, like, learning just a little bit about different techniques, even techniques to help your stress. That you take with you forever, right? To any job, to any career, to any business. And so that's one of the things that we really promote is any self-development is really, really, really important as well.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's great because I also believe like that in that emotional intelligence and that personal growth. And it sounds like you two have been constantly working on that. Even if you didn't realize it from the beginning, you're constantly reinventing yourself, figuring out ways on how to deal with the stress or healthy ways to relieve it. So I love that. The last question that I have is, what do you hope someone listening takes from your story?
I just hope for people to understand that If you're alive, you will be stressful. That's okay. Grow. For humans, I think the key of happiness is just growing. The moment that we don't feel happy is because we feel stuck in some part of our life. But if you're looking forward to grow every day, even if it's just a little bit in all the aspects of your life, you will be happy. Right? Kisan, I take a lot of trainings of self-development. So one of my favorite training is called the perfect date. So one of my coaches said, okay, what would be your perfect date? A perfect date will be do not have alarms in the morning. Just wake up naturally. Then exercise.
Go to the gym.
Go to the gym. Not for a long time, just 15 minutes. Then go to my favorite breakfast place. Get good breakfast, good coffee, and spend time with my wife and my kids. And then work. I really love to work
Loves work.
and grow our business. And then end of the day watching a movie.
We love movies.
Yes. Let's have a perfect day, just one day.
One day a week.
Hey, let's see, we can do 2 days a week. Most of our days are perfect. You're always gonna have bad days, but if we have 7 days in the week, and you manage 4 to be good, and even you have 3 bad, you will be happy.
So the thing about the perfect day training, and I, again, coach a lot of women on this, is like your day doesn't have to be completely perfect with everything. But I coach my women, I say, all right, write out your perfect day. Okay. And maybe somewhere in your perfect day is taking a 10-minute walk, wherever. Choose one thing to add to your day twice a week, 3 times a week, and then start building. It doesn't have to be a full day of your perfect things. But, I even challenged some of my family members. I had this discussion recently with 2 of my sisters. I'm one of 5 children. They were going through a really hard time. And I'm like, Maddie, why don't you, she's got 5 kids and she's like 35. And I was like, Maddie, write out your perfect day. And one of the things for her was taking 10 minutes to herself, go outside and get fresh air and take a walk. Which when you're under 40 and you've got 5 kids and a husband, that's a big deal, is taking that one little thing. And so she started to do that. It is life changing for her because she also tends to suffer a little bit from depression. Doing that once a day for her has changed her life. And so that's what we coach is like, okay, let's do the perfect day thing, but you don't have to do everything. Because then if you don't do it, you feel like a failure, right? Choose one thing from your perfect day, and let's do that. Let's see how that changes your life. And that's been kind of cool to see. So that's how I would end it too. I would say, do that one exercise. What would be things in your perfect day? Maybe you're not an entrepreneur. Maybe you love your job. Let's say you write out your perfect day and your job is not in there. Your job is nowhere in there. That's something to consider. Life is so short. I'm 40. He's 52. Our life is more than halfway over. Let's be real. Okay. Say middle age, but we're already halfway there. So life is so short. So write out your perfect day. And if that job you're doing is miserable, I would think on that. I would think about that because you're going to look back in that rocking chair. You're going to be 88. I use the rocking chair test. You're sitting in your rocking chair at 88 years old and you're thinking back on your life. You're going to think one of 2 things. Dang, that was an awesome life. Like I did everything. I don't have any regret. And that would have been me if I had stuck with my teaching job and just done the things. Or you're going to sit in that rocking chair and you'd be like, man, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And we don't want that for ourselves. And we don't want that for people that we coach, people that we love and care about. So I know it's hard. Nothing is easy. We make it sound easy, this, that, and the other. No, this is 20 years of daily working on this. But that's what
Thank you both, Jacqui and Waldo. I believe there's power in sharing our stories. And a lot of people see the Jacqui and Waldo who you are today. They see the success, but they don't see everything that led up to that. So I really appreciate you taking time today to share that story with us. So thank you again for your time and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow, and share this with someone who might need it. Stay tuned for the next one.